And good morning, all you fine folks out there watching this here channel on the YouTubers. I hope everybody's doing well today on this Tuesday. It is kind of cool down here in North Carolina, at least in Robeson County. Can't speak for the rest of the state. But I pray and hope everybody's doing well today. Like I said. So, what do we want to talk about today? The ignorance of Mr. Bloomberg. That's going to be item number one. We may not get off of it. You know, they went back and showed some tape of an interview he gave 3 years ago. And I'm going to tell you, it aggravates me, and here's why. It's the classic stereotype, that's what I'm going to call it, of how rich people look down on poor people type mentality. That's one way of looking at it. Another way is just, I'm smarter, you're dumber, I can teach you to do this because it's that easy, kind of. Basically his comment about how simple farming is and that he could teach anybody to do it. Buddy boy, I don't think you're going to win a whole lot of support from the American farmer on them comments. He's already got issues going into this from his time as the mayor of New York and his belief in the stop and frisk policy. And the comments he made there about that. So, I just don't know. And then, also listening, Tulsi Gabbard made a very valid point about her own party. And that's why I'm still surprised that she is sticking with her party, about what they deem as qualifications to make their national debates. And I'm guessing that she didn't make the cut for the next debate, but yet Mr. Bloomberg, who didn't meet it in a way because based on campaign donations, but because he's basically self-funding his campaign, he can buy his, you know, the way you elaborated to it, and kind of a fair point, that he's buying his way into this debate in order to make himself relevant. And she's got a valid point there. It's not exactly a fair metric, and especially one that, you know, because he's self-funding, and they're probably looking at, well, you know, think about the money we could get out of him into the party if we let him do this. So we'll just go ahead and let him do it. And then you got, you know, Tulsi Gabbard working hard to get her campaign donations up, and, you know, her supporters to follow and that kind of thing. Again, I'm not a nice turn signal, dude. I'm not a Democrat, not a liberal, but I've got quite a bit of respect for Tulsi Gabbard. I don't agree with everything that she's trying to do, but I think she was raised with conservative values from a working person's standpoint of view, I guess. It's the best way to describe it. And then she's got to compete with the likes and the ilk of the Bloombergs and the Bidens and the Warrens and all them folks. That's the other thing that I think too, trying to make himself relevant. He has made the statement that he would like to have Hillary Clinton as his running partner. Oh my goodness. I don't know whether to laugh or scream about that one. And for several reasons. One of those reasons is employees what it is to get people to his cause. And really, at the end of the day, I think Bloomberg may be a joke, but then again, they say he's picking up numbers in the polling, which polls, depending on which polls they are, it can be accurate or in a lot of cases skewed and biased. If anything, the last election tells us the mainstream polls are definitively not to be trusted. That's the other thing. Democrats keep preaching that they've got all these numbers that are going to show up, but I look at the walkaway movement started by Brandon Straka. Okay. I look at the number of people that have rallied to his cause. Now, many of them, not all of them like Donald Trump. Now, I'm not saying they're all going to vote for Trump come November, but they have all stated that they will not vote Democrat. There's many that have just flat out stated that they've left the Democrat Party and will not go back. Y'all tell me what you think down there in the comments below. What do you think is going to happen to the Democrat Party? It's almost like it's on the verge of imploding because they're so divided amongst themselves. Kind of scary too, because it seems to be the most powerful segment of the party are the far left, the extremes. And I'm afraid if they gain a foothold, that they will bend, break, and defy any rule or law to get what they want done. It's interesting to see, folks. There's even one prediction that the Democrat Party will dissolve itself in the next 8 years. I'm trying to remember where I saw that at. Or heard it. But yeah, on the rate, the path they're going, there's a prediction that the party might dissolve. Not unheard of. I mean, when political parties started forming in the United States, think about how many we've actually gone through. To where we're at now with Democrats and Republicans. You had Whigs, you had Federalists, you had the Democratic Republicans, I think you had Democratic Republicans, on and on and on. And now you've got Republicans and Democrats and a smaller segue of libertarians that kind of float either way, depending on the issue. So it shall be interesting to see what happens at the end of the day. Right now, and I'm way off on a wild tangent now because I just, listening to what Bloomberg said about the American farmer. And I live here in Robeson County, North Carolina, an extremely rural county. That a good portion of the economy here is still based on agriculture and farming. Even though we have industrial plants in this county, we've got poultry producing plants, we've got hog farms, there's manufacturing plants, but the majority of the county still predominantly farms. I'm going to tell you, some of these farmers I know and have met are some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. I just, to make a remark like he did in this interview, just, he said he was explaining it as farming is a process, and as simple as you dig a hole, you put the seed in there, you put dirt on top of it, and water it, and the corn comes up. It's a very, very, very simplified view of farming. There's more to it than that. And I think it's a slap in the face of the American farmer, whether his intention was something else. That's the way it has been perceived and come across to them. And I don't farm. I'll be the first one to tell you I don't know the first thing actually about farming. but I can imagine it's tough work, considering, not only do you have to grow your produce and your product, whether it's, livestock or produce, you have to be able to get that to market. You have to be able to find your market and sell it in your market and be able to make enough of a profit to pay your bills at the end of the day. You have to know when to plant, when not to, when to water, when not to. There's a big risk depending on the weather, which a farmer can't control. And somewhat trying to know what the weather cycles are going to be in a given year. Trying to predict so you can produce the best crop that you possibly can. I mean, just down here alone, just a few years ago when Hurricane Matthew come through, the flooding devastated a lot of the crop in the field. There was corn and cotton that couldn't be harvested because it was flooded. You couldn't get the harvesters out into the fields because it was flooded, or it was so bogged that they would have got stuck. And when cotton blooms, I mean, it's got there's a time frame when it blooms that you got to get it off the stalk and to the mill. And if not, it rots like any other crop. Corn, I've seen summers where it's been so hot and dry that no amount of irrigating the fields can fully save the crop. You got fields of corn that I've seen just basically sit in the field and burn up because of the lack of rainfall. So there's times of plenty and there's times of drought. And farmers have to know this. And not only that, just the day-to-day operations of just a small farm, you got equipment maintenance. Okay? You've got fuel costs. Feed for your livestock. Veterinarian bills for your livestock. Okay. Cost of seed. All these things the farmers got to know and got to be able to go and price and that kind of thing. And here's the whole thing. At the end of the day, when they put a crop in the ground and they harvest it, at the end of the season, it still could be hit or miss on whether it's going to be a bumper crop or a bust. And honestly, modern farming now, the cost of equipment, some of the prices of the machines they use to do what they do, man that leases my fields said he's got one machine, just one machine out of the several that he uses that ran him $25,000. No, $125,000. Excuse me, $125,000. After that, I think it was some kind of sprayer / planter. Again, I'm not a farmer. And that was one of several machines his farm used. But I just thought what Mr. Bloomberg said was extremely condescending and disrespectful to the American farmer. Maybe I took it wrong, but my grandfather farmed after getting out of law enforcement. My daddy's family, they were sharecroppers. But yeah, that's the other thing. He talks about this process. Okay, you use your dime store words there, Mr. Bloomberg, but at the end of the day, you still have to eat. Just like everybody else. I reckon he thinks government ought to run farms and put people to work planting farms. I don't know. Totally off subject what we started though. We talked about that. I drive down this particular road to school or to work every day at the school I work at. I look at farms, the fields that are adjacent on each side, and I see which ones are being planted, see which ones that are not. And then I see for sale signs on some of this property, and I see trees getting cleared out. And I think, what's taking place here? Now I know certain fields, there's so many years in a row you farm a field and you have to let them go fallow for a year or two. That way the soil rejuvenates and that kind of thing. I think a lot of the farmers around here also depend on chemical fertilization of some sort. And there's people that don't like that. Again, I'm not a farmer, so I'm not going to sit here and tell a man how to run his business in order to feed his family. But I see more and more farmland being bought up and turned into subdivisions or apartment complexes or shopping centers that, I don't know, folks. That's something that we need to take a look at too in this nation. That's something that needs to be protected. Because eventually, if all the farmland's bought out, where are we going to grow food to eat? Now, somebody might say, well, there's still a ton of land out there. Yeah, you're right, there is. But at the end of the day, when you bought it all up, you put houses and subdivisions and apartments and shopping centers on it, where are you going to grow the food? And the more you say there's land out there to be had, you're right. But once it's bought, it's bought. They're not making any more land. Now, I'm not against somebody buying a piece of property and building a house. If that's what they want to do, that is their God-given right to do so. But at the same token, I look at the number of houses that sit empty, sit vacant, sit in disrepair, and wonder, how could I change this? What could I do to alleviate this, to where this property, this house sits on becomes viable and usable again? Or why aren't people considering buying it and restoring it? You'd think that's what they do in all them TV shows where people buy and renovate and restore homes, but tell me what you think down in the thoughts, or listen to me, the thoughts down in the comments section below. I've been up since 3:30, folks. My back woke me up this morning and said, "Get up, because I want to suffer with you today." So my back's been hurting all night. But anyway, I want to thank everybody that joined me last night on our live chat. I appreciate y'all showing up. Sorry it was so short. Again, like I said, still not 100% whatever's going on. I'm going to follow up with my doctor in a few weeks and see what we're going to do. But yeah, tell me what you think about everything we've talked about down there in the comments section below. Appreciate all your comments and your feedback. So, as always, charities that ask you to help out, ThoughtsOfAnOldSoldier Folds of Honor, Ballot for Veterans, Benefit for Vets. They do great things for our veterans and their families every day, folks. But they can't do it by themselves. Anything you can do to help them, they would certainly appreciate. Likewise, vendors I'd ask you to help out with. Money Quick Pawn on Rayford Road, Fayetteville, North Carolina, where I go for all my firearms and ammunition needs. Robert's Custom Woodwork and Unsung Patriot. Check them all out down below in the description. Like I said too, if you haven't got my books and you like my poetry, the prices have been marked down on Amazon. Go check them out. And also, if you want one of my t-shirts or sweatshirts, all the links are down below, somewhere down there. Check them out. Okay. Until then, folks, God bless. Take care. And until tomorrow, it's Old Soldier out.